Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to your weekly dose of newsy infotainment. It's Let's Be Treasonable, coming to you from the luxurious studios of Radio Titans in Los Angeles, with your cognitive dissidents on the panel this week. Michelle March, comedian, Latina, lesbian,
all kinds of stuff.
Bon vivant.
All together, right? One big ball of love. Here I am.
There we go.
Thank you.
Sounds much better if you say it about yourself than if I say it.
I like the way you say it. That's a great introduction.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for being here. Also joining us on the panel this week, political operative, man about town, Ernie Powell.
And I'm not a Russian either.
Not a Russian. not a Russian agent.
Yeah, good to be here.
Not Russian, no hurry to get anywhere. And as always, the black voice of reason, Mr. Time and Ship.
I may be a black Russian. I don't know.
Delicious.
Yes, love black Russians. Black Russians too. Power to the people. Good to be here.
And I am your host, Dr. David Robinson, the Vin Scully for the upcoming apocalypse, if you will. And we are here with, as I said, another week of Let's Be Treasonable. And we do have our fifth Beatle, the five-time Emmy-nominated comedian. It's Will Durst. So it is time for a burst of Durst from Will Durst. Hey, Will.
Hey, guys. Will Durst here with a few choice words about Donald Trump Jr. Turns out the eldest son of the Trump crime family is not the hot-headed tactician that Santino was in The Godfather, but more of a Fredo impersonator. Apparently, he's the Trump most prone to making an offer you can't understand. Responses to recent revelations have been what you might call fluid. First, nobody had any contact with any Russian, ever. Nobody. Then, okay, well, maybe Don Jr. might have had a meeting, but it was a nothing burger meeting. Okay, maybe a marinated flank steak meeting with a Russian lawyer, but it was all about adopting orphans, and nobody else was there. Well, maybe Paul Manafort and Jared Kushner were there, but they had no idea what the meeting was about. Then they got bored and left early. And, oh yeah, it wasn't about orphans, but it had nothing to do with seeking damaging information about Hillary Clinton, which wouldn't be illegal even if it did happen, which it didn't. Okay, it did. And here's some grass-fed prime beef filet mignon emails that mention the meeting was going to be about seeking damaging information about Hillary Clinton, but nothing came of it, and we know that because Donald Jr., Paul Manafort, Jared Kushner, and the Russian lawyer all said nothing happened. And why wouldn't we believe the people who haven't told us the truth ever, not once, about anything? Donald Trump Sr. applauded son number one's transparency for releasing the emails that detail the campaign's attempt to enlist foreign help to discredit Hillary, which is like complimenting the bear that mauled you for maintaining such sharp claws. Won't be long before the Don tweets out that the press should ignore Don Jr. because he's not his real son. And neither are Eric or Jared. As a matter of fact, his only true son is Ivanka. The rest are just fake sons. Like fake news, only different. For Let's Be Treasonable, I'm Will Durst.
Thank you very much, Will. Some good points and a great review of what's going on with the Donald Trump Jr. emails. One question I have, because I saw a lot of people this week comparing Don Jr. to Fredo. If Don Jr. is Fredo, does that make Eric Sal from Dog Day Afternoon? So just waiting to get the money for his operation. That's all he needs.
Wait. Who from Dog Day Afternoon?
Sal. John Cazale's character, the boyfriend, Pacino's, lover.
Yeah.
Who also played Fredo in
The Godfather.
The Godfather movies. Yeah.
And so what's the question? I'm sorry.
That if Don Jr. is Fredo, is Eric Sal?
Good question. I don't know. But I do take issue with something that that Will said.
What's that?
What they did was illegal, because it's illegal to get value in a federal campaign from a foreign government.
Oh, absolutely.
Or a foreign agent.
I think what Will was saying, though, was he was taking the Trump perspective of, how it escalated from it didn't happen to, if it did happen, it's not illegal. and then
It's a
it did
nothing
happen, so
burger.
it's not
So
illegal.
he was sort of paraphrasing
Yeah.
Trump's defense.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically, which is I think that's one of the most ridiculous things about this. I hesitate to call it a scandal because it's reality. It's what's going on, but
Treason.
yeah, seriously, what Trump and his family either don't seem to understand or are hell bent on obfuscating for everybody else that taking the meeting in and of itself was illegal because the emails established what the purpose of the meeting was. And I think one of the biggest dodges from the Republicans, really before it came out that, half of the Kremlin was at Trump Tower that day for the meeting, is, they're trying, well, it was about adoptions. It was about Russian adoptions. And that's,
So funny.
that's
the worst. Like, how could you say that? I mean, out of all things, right?
it's like saying the American Revolution was about breakfast beverages,
Yeah.
because of the Boston Tea Party. It was, the Russian government banned Americans from adopting Russian children in response to the Magnitsky Act, which, for those who haven't delved into what's going on, basically in 2009, there were a bunch of Kremlin apparatchiks and associated, insanely rich people in Russia who were basically doing money laundering and committing fraud on a massive scale. So this lawyer by the name of Magnitsky was prosecuting them for fraud. And then somehow he's guilty of committing fraud himself, as often happens in Russia. When you challenge the government, you've committed the crimes that they're accused of. Strange how that happens. So he goes to prison. He's not in good health. He's got gallstones. I think he had kidney issues. Plus, I'm sure the beatings that are administered in the Russian prison, not really good for anyone's health. If you're on the receiving end. So he dies in prison, and 3 years later, our government passes the Magnitsky Act, which basically freezes the assets of certain Russians who were named in the suit that are basically responsible for Magnitsky getting killed in prison, and so the Russian adoption thing was in retaliation for America saying, yeah, you can't launder your money here anymore. So to say that, oh, well, the meeting was about adoptions is a classic dodge, although I will say, in the defense of Donald Trump Jr.,
What?
it does seem like the kind of takeaway that he would have from the meeting. That he would, despite the fact, that the emails said this is going to be about Russian dirt, for him to do, well, all she wanted to talk about was adoption.
Liars.
It's like I can see him missing the entire point of everything that was discussed in the meeting.
What's
and
your
that was
theory
the
on
one
why
thing he came out
Manafort and Kirshner were there?
Oh, for the dirt that they were there to get. And that's
how would he extrapolate their attendance and say it was about adoptions? In other words, how would he put all that together and make it believable?
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to the mat for him. I'm just saying, the way that you ever have an argument with usually, I've found this happens with Republicans. You could be arguing about literally the price of tea in China.
Right.
And they pull out China as the one word and want to start talking about ceramics and the problem with fine dining ware. And I think that is, it was that innate Republican ability that potentially allowed Donald Trump to have that one thing be the thing that stuck in his head. He, everything else, right through, in one ear, out the other. What'd you guys talk about? Adoption.
Yeah, but they immediately stated that the minute he received the phone call, he was
Email. It's all in all in writing.
He should have went to the FBI immediately.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
was what he was supposed to do. And he said, well, I didn't think anything of it. I mean, yeah, but no. In your email, it shows you were excited about it, and you couldn't wait to get it because you thought it would, you're going to commit this crime. And Kushner showed up, Manafort showed up, and you guys are in on it, but it wasn't completely what you wanted. Now, also there is a Russian agent sitting in there with them. Okay, and they wanted to change what Obama had done. Okay, everything was about this because Obama had slapped enough sanctions on Russia. The whole thing was, if we can, we'll help you, and if you'll help us get rid of these sanctions. Like they have those two mansions that are sitting, those two compounds sitting in I think they're in Washington somewhere or wherever they are,
outside of D.C.
Outside D.C. And they want
Maryland.
Right.
And they want that property. And Obama said, "Oh no, we're cutting off all the stuff that you guys are doing." And then so they figured, hey, we'll help you do this if you give us this stuff back. And he was like, no. And that's when, he should have been talking to the FBI. If you were so concerned about America first, that's exactly what you should have done. Now you want to. And that's why they're so hard on Trump right now. If you mess around and take these, you're helping Russia? Oh, no, I'm not helping. So he has to clean his act up. He really has to, because, you keep saying that you want to get rid of what Obama's done. A lot of things, he was putting America first.
You want clean material from Trump? That ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Right. So, they're trying to, find a way to say that this was nothing. I mean, even his supporters, it didn't matter. I mean, that's what's helping this guy. The people who elected him, they love him. His supporters, his base, they love him. He can
do no wrong.
He could throw shit all over everywhere. Hey,
he said he could shoot somebody in the face in the middle of Times Square and nobody would care. And guess what? They're right.
Right, because of the thinking of our, the way our society thinks, and we're so divided. We're very divided and everything. And they wanted this guy. They sold them on, oh, well, it's the same political blah. I'm going to clean the swamp. And no, the swamp is still full. You haven't got anywhere near cleaning the swamp.
They filled the swamp.
Well, yeah, they're filling it with
worse. They filled the swamp with worse, yeah. And then silence on the radio. Go ahead.
No, I didn't know if
Just play it.
you were going to go on with more, but yeah, and there was a really interesting piece in the Washington Post yesterday, written by a former American intelligence operative, talking about how this whole scenario with Trump Jr. sounds like basically what the Russians do when they're feeling out a potential agent, that they can turn.
Right.
That the lawyer, I'm horrible with names, Natalia Veselnitskaya.
I know her. Just kidding. I used to go out with her. She's gorgeous. No, just kidding. I don't know her.
Well, she's the Russian lawyer that met with them. That in the emails was purported to be, by this British PR guy, Rob Goldstone. He called her the Crown Prosecutor of Russia, which such a position does not actually exist in the Russian government.
Right.
But she does represent a lot of the folks that work at the Kremlin in their side gigs of ripping off companies and what they do. And one of the things that I think is interesting and why it's great that there's so much attention being paid to this is that back in May, there was a case in front of the Justice Department here with, let me see, in May, reading off of Wikipedia here, in May 2017, U.S. authorities came to an agreement with Prevazone, one of the companies used for laundering the money exfiltrated from Russia as a result of the fraud discovered by Magnitsky, and they settled the case. Real estate company just paid $5.8 million right before it was going to go to trial. Why would our Justice Department settle a case that we could have won that we probably actually would have won, but the losers in the case would have been Russian friends of